Good evening, everyone. I am back again for day 3 of Baby Loss Awareness Week. So if you've caught the last 2 videos, brilliant. Thank you so much for your support. And if you haven't, that's no problem. They are on my page. You can go back at your own leisure and have a look through them whenever you'd like. I will also be downloading them to put on my YouTube, so they'll be there for you to have a look through for quite some time. Now, I'm just going to move back slightly. Glenroy, if you can just do the same, because I've got a feeling that we're a bit too close. That's better. I don't look like we're on top of you. Right, okay. So, you may see that I've got a special guest today with me. This is Hubby. So, for those of you that know us, you'll know this is my husband sitting next to you. But for those of you who don't, this is my husband sitting next to me.
Hey everyone.
And this is Glenroy. This is Mr. Clark. And today we felt that it was, or tonight, time's gone so fast, we felt that it was really important to speak about how baby loss affects the dads. Because like I've said, Hubby's not very well. Men grieve too, and they don't really, I wouldn't say don't really get a say, but there's not really much of a platform for them to say anything unless they build their own. They're not necessarily included in ways that the women are, if that makes sense, stemming right from the hospital, which I've already spoken to you about. So what I'm going to do, I've prepared some questions. Hubby doesn't know what they are. He hasn't got a clue. Prepared some questions, and I'm going to ask Hubby these questions, and we'll just see what he says. I've told him to be completely honest. And just before I get into the questions, this is little Shiloh here. This is our last born. Okay, right then. So, you ready for the first question? Yeah?
Yeah, got it.
Okay, so the first question: what was your initial reaction when we were told there was no heartbeat? So take us back to that day.
So at that point, it was New Year's Day, 2017. Michelle had been in hospital for 5 days previous. She'd been in hospital with high blood pressure and suspected signs of preeclampsia. So Michelle wanted to actually come home for New Year's, so they said that yes, you can come home for New Year's because your blood pressure had returned back to normal, but you must come every day for a checkup.
Yeah.
So New Year's Day, New Year's morning, we went into hospital. Michelle went to go and see the midwives. I had to remain outside because we had Jackson in the pushchair. Plus we had Maleka there too. And it took a while. It was quite long. And also I remember Michelle coming out saying, oh, they need to scan me, saying that the doctor's not finding a heartbeat. Well, at this point they basically said that Michelle will have to go for a scan and I'll basically have to wait to find out. To which Michelle was basically saying, well, no, because if it is anything bad, she doesn't want me knowing secondhand.
Can I just interject there? Did you hear what he just said? Like, that in itself... It's okay, do you want to go and find someone? I'm carrying on. That in itself is ludicrous, okay? So if any hospital staff are watching, and a great friend of mine, who I used to teach dance to a long time ago, has already messaged me, and she's training to become a midwife. You know who you are. Thank you so much, and I appreciate you doing that. Because one of the things that she asked me was, you know, obviously she wants to be the change, and she asked if there was anything that we would have liked the hospital to have done differently. Are you smiling with the people? And what I would say is just right there what Hubby said. If they could not find a heartbeat, surely that's when the rules go out the window. It shouldn't be the case where if there is no heartbeat, and in our case that was the case, that my husband finds out secondary to me, I'm put through that by finding out alone, all because we have 2 other children that cannot be in that part of the hospital. To me, that's when all rules should go out the window, because now it's a matter of life or death. And you could actually be saying to these parents, you've lost your baby. And I just think something so serious as that, it should not matter whether you've got other children there or not. I get that they have to protect the other children. I get they have to protect themselves. I get that there's policies of the hospital. But I think just to... And again, they've got my record, so they know that previously I've suffered with depression and anxiety, and they were willing to take the risk of taking me into a room and scanning me and maybe telling me your baby's died without my husband being there, and then my husband having to find out from me. I just thought that was ridiculous. And this is what I was saying about making sure you speak up and speak out, because I was not having that. Even though it was the first time I've ever been in such a situation, I said to them there and then, that's not happening. I understand the children can't be in the room, but I am not about to... Because in my gut feeling, I kind of knew. I'm not about to get such bad, horrific news without my husband being there, and then having to go into another room and say to him, oh, by the way, our baby's died. It wasn't happening. So I put my foot down and I said to them, no, it's not happening that way. I'm sorry. He either comes in or you're not scanning me. And in a way, it's like, well, obviously I need the scan because I need to find out. But what happened in the end was when they realised I was serious, did they get a member of staff to go with the kids?
No, so what happened is that we all went into the maternity ward, went into the waiting area first, and then one of the nurses took the kids.
That's right.
Took the kids when we went into the scan room. So they started the scan with sonographers, and that they had found. Well, we didn't know what was going on at the time, but they then went to call somebody else in, which I think was a doctor.
I think so. I vaguely remember. I know it was a man, but
then, yeah, the doctor basically then came in and then basically said that, yes, we can see the baby there, but there's no heartbeat. So, you know, unfortunately, she had passed.
Yeah, there was no activity there whatsoever. No brain activity, nothing.
No. And, you know, as I said, don't think that these things can't happen in an instant, because the day before New Year's Eve, before Michelle was coming home, I was actually on the phone with her while they were doing the Doppler check, and Destiny's heartbeat was as strong as and as normal as could be. Okay, you're right there, Charlotte.
Don't forget the initial question.
Yeah, so I'm getting to that. So when the news was mentioned or was said that, you know, the heartbeat had gone and we'd lost her, at this point in time, I was at the back, well, you can call it the back of the room. I was basically facing Michelle. The bed was there and I was facing the bed at the back of the room.
I remember that.
And all I just remember is just me. I just slid down the wall, literally onto the floor. And
to me, it looked like it was in slow motion.
It probably was.
It literally was like something out of a movie.
It just came like, it's like your whole world just come crashing down in that one instant.
Yeah.
You know.
No time to prepare.
No time to prepare for it. All of a sudden, you've been told that, you know, your baby has passed. And in some ways, it was just... You don't know how to react to that in some ways.
But what was your initial reaction?
But my initial reaction was, I was bawled. I just cried. I've never, ever cried like I
You
cried
didn't instantly?
I didn't instantly.
I think we were in
I
shock
think
for a bit.
it was initial state of shock. I was just dumbfounded.
Yeah.
I kind of slid down the wall a little bit. I think that happened afterwards, actually, when the nurse came.
They left us, didn't they?
The nurse came and said to me, "Are you okay?" And I think that kind of started it off. At first, we were kind of like, "Okay, that's the case." And then I think one of the nurses looked at me and then basically said, "Are you alright?" And that's where I basically just everything just went, let go of.
And I was in shock, but at the time I didn't know it, because I remember him saying, "There's no heartbeat. We're sorry to tell you she's gone." And I was just like, "Oh, okay then, yeah." Just like I was speaking to a friend on the phone, because I was trying to process it and deal with it at the same time. And I could see, like Glenn said, him sliding down the wall, and it was turning into a scene of EastEnders. It was just weird. And I remember just lying there, because I'd just been scanned, so I was still lying down. And I was just like, yeah, like, seriously, like, when I look back now, it was just not normal. Right, okay, yeah, just, taking everything you're saying to me. And it's like, what I was thinking and what I was saying was not connecting. But what I remember is when they left the room, because at this point, I remember it was just us two in the room. Yeah. "Shall we give you some time?" one of them said.
Yeah.
And then we were like, yes, please. And then they left the room. And I remember coming over to you, giving you a hug, because at this point you were like just completely uncontrollable. And my husband's a big guy, as you can see. And I remember wrapping my arms around him and literally just feeling his whole body just shaking. And I thought to myself, this is serious. That's when I realised, like, this is really, really serious. Because I've never seen him like that. And I think that's when I started to process it. And it was like, oh, my gosh. And you start to think all things, because he'd always been my rock. And when I seen him like that, I was absolutely I was in shock. Because I'm thinking, what do I do now? I've never seen him in this state before. And then I think that's when we just started to scream out in shock, wasn't it? It was literally screaming. It was only afterwards we're thinking, what must everybody else on this ward be thinking? But at the time, we're not.
Care.
No, at the time, you're not thinking that. You're not thinking, oh, let's scream quietly. We've just found out our daughter's died, but we don't want to, disturb anyone. So let's just do silent screams. It's not like that. Seriously, you don't care. You just scream out. You just want to let it all out. It's not real. At that moment in time, it's not real.
No.
Okay, so second question. When I was first admitted to hospital in pain, so the very first time I had to go in.
Yes.
Did you ever think that we could be in danger of losing the baby? Because remember, initially I did say to you, I think I've got preeclampsia. Look at my feet, look how swollen they are.
Well, just as a precursor to answering that question, a week or so, maybe a week or a half before we went to the GP.
Yeah. And
we expressed our concerns to him. And I said about the swelling in Michelle's legs because I noticed it. And I noticed a slight indentation when I put my finger in. And I pressed against it.
Can we just talk about that? Because that's really important. Thanks for bringing that up. That's a sign.
That is one of the big signs of preeclampsia.
Yeah.
And the doctor did it as well. And he basically said, well, no, everything's okay.
By that we mean, so pregnant ladies, if you're watching, indentation. If you're swollen and you press into the swelling
and it doesn't come
and it bounces back out, that's normal. That's normal swelling. If you press into the swelling and it stays there
for a little while,
it
will come back up, but it won't come back up straight away.
Right, that's indentation, and that's preeclampsia.
Well, suspected,
but do get that checked if that's happening to you.
Because,
sorry.
Yeah, so to that extent, we was like,
because he was saying no, wasn't he?
He was saying no,
and it was December, and I was wearing sandals.
Yeah, and you have to kind of trust the doctors because. We don't know. As you know, pregnancy is the biggest mystery on the planet because no two pregnancies are the same, and you never know what's going to happen in a pregnancy. You just don't.
Yeah.
But then a week after that, I think it was Boxing Day.
I think so.
It was Boxing Day.
Day after.
Was it day after Boxing Day?
I'll never forget.
It was the 27th because I was due to go back to work.
Yeah.
Because the job I was in, we didn't have Christmas shutdown. I was due to go back to work on the 27th. But I remember Michelle. Yes, Sharon. I remember Michelle basically saying she was in a lot of pain, stomach pain, and she went to lie down. And said, "Okay, well, I'm not going to go into work. I'm going to call them saying, obviously, you're not well." They already knew that she was pregnant, and then we kept on. Okay. But this went on for about 3 hours.
A long time.
3 to 4 hours, and then I was like, no, this isn't right. You can't be in pain for 3 to 4 hours. And as much as I was saying to her, you need to get up and go to the hospital. She's like, I don't want to get up out of bed. I'm like, no, we are going to the hospital. We have to. So then obviously we went to A&E, in the urgent care centre, which was above A&E in Newcastle Hospital. To which obviously there was a lot of people there, and we basically had to put people on the waiting list. One of the things that I was very unhappy about with that service was that Michelle, at 22 weeks pregnant, in pain, I don't know, which you don't know could also be a sign of anything, had to wait for nearly 5.5 hours before she was seen.
Yep.
So we got there about 3:15. I still remember all of these. So we got there about 3:15 in the afternoon. So bear in mind, we had the 2 kids as well.
Yep.
Who we just literally had to say, like, we're going. It was nearly 8 o'clock when she was seen.
Yeah.
You know, I had to go downstairs and just find little things for the kids to eat because I was
so to keep the kids entertained.
Yeah, to keep the kids entertained. Don't forget, Jackson at this point was only 18 months. Well, just approaching 18 months. It was one. No, it wasn't 18 months. It was 15 months. Sorry, 14, 15 months at the time. And Malika was 6.
Yeah.
So obviously they were thinking, well, you know, they've been here for hours. What's going on? What's going on? So eventually, when we did see the doctor, I think they did the test and everything like that. The doctor didn't actually say anything, but then he went out. And next thing you know, we come back, and he's come back with a porter with a wheelchair. Hadn't told us what was being found at that moment in time. The next thing you know, 30 seconds later, Michelle was being wheeled right away across Newcastle Hospital.
And I mean wheeled
at 95 miles an hour. I'm trying to walk behind them with a 6-year-old and the person in Jackson in the pushchair.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, well, Michelle was in fits of tears.
Because I knew they were wheeling me so fast, like it was an emergency. I'm talking seriously. You know when you see kids with like the shopping trolleys from the supermarkets and they're just wheeling them around the streets? It was like that. I literally sat down and they were off with me. Down here, round here, left here, right here. Yeah. It was crazy. And I was in fits of tears, as Glenroy said, because by that time, I just knew that one of us was going to die. And I was just looking at Glenroy and I was just like, I just had my hands in my, covering my face, and I was just in fits of tears because I did not know what to think, what to do, but I did know that would be the outcome. Don't ask me how, but I just knew. I know how serious preeclampsia is. I know people that have had preeclampsia before me. I know people that have had preeclampsia and neither them or their child has died, but there's been serious complications. I've had people that have had preeclampsia, it's been caught in time, them and the child have been fine. I know people, or I've read stories of people who had preeclampsia and either them and the child have died together, or the child's died, or they've died. There's so much cases out there, but they're not all reported. Yeah. And just the fact that we were left for so long, it's like, I just knew. I just knew.
Yeah, so at that time, they took her to the maternity ward. And they basically, at that point, then said to us, her blood pressure is high. She needs to be monitored. We need to keep her in overnight. So by this time, it was probably 10 o'clock at night. It was, as you say, end of December, it was absolutely freezing outside.
Yeah.
So about 10, 10:30, and then having to go right the way back across the other end of the hospital, because where we parked the car was, the other side of the hospital, go back then and obviously take the kids home. But at the time, they just said it was high blood pressure and we need to monitor it because high blood pressure could be a sign of preeclampsia. So I just wanted to monitor you at that point, just to see if there's any signs or anything else. So then the days went on. She went in the hospital from the 27th up until New Year's Eve. And one of the other rules that with the hospital was that I think does need to be tweeted is that because I had the children, I could only be there for an hour. I think it was between like 3 and 4 or something like that, 2 and 3, and then 7 and 8, something like that. 2 hours a day I could only be there for, only because I had the other 2 children with me. If I was there by myself, I could have stayed all the way through.
This is before she died, by the way.
This is before, yeah.
Yeah.
And I just found that because we obviously we had our eldest 2 in Birmingham, the rules are different there, where you and the kids can be there pretty much all the time. found that hard to deal with because obviously Michelle needed me there as comfort. And, you know, seeing her kids there was a comforting thing for her. But to only have them 2 hours a day, you know, was very difficult for her to do and for us. And yes, it was a lot of back and forth to the hospital, but that, you know, that's in neither here nor there in the scheme of things.
Answering these questions.
What? What was the? Go back to the question. Tell me what the question was.
Did you think for 1 second after everything that the baby was going to die?
Not at that point. To answer the question, at the time that Michelle was admitted to hospital, I didn't think that
could be the outcome.
No, I didn't think that was going to be the outcome at that point in time.
Okay.
Even when she'd been in hospital for a few days.
Because you heard the heartbeat strong, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the only time that I kind of felt something different was when you came home New Year's Eve, and the house was always quite warm. And I remember you saying, I feel cold.
Yes. I kept saying that.
And then you fell asleep.
And I was off my food, wasn't I?
Yeah.
I didn't really want dinner.
Didn't want anything to eat. You said you felt cold and then you went to sleep.
Yeah.
So, you know, we came to spend New Year's together and everyone had fell asleep by 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
So I had the little baby, I had Jackson in my arms, Malek was fast asleep, Michelle was fast asleep. But something rang in my head up. I just sat there to myself thinking, that's not normal. Our house is normal, our house is hot and she's feeling cold. And then I just thought, no, that didn't it seemed strange at the time when she feel that she was so cold and then went to sleep.
Yeah. Even though it was winter.
At first I thought it might have been just because of the travel back home and it's freezing cold outside.
Dear. Oh dear. Yeah. You okay?
Oh dear.
You're white. Oh dear. Okay, next question.
Yeah, what's the next
I haven't got much battery left.
Okay, let's go.
Explain the days we spent in the hospital. So
Is this from the time that we found?
Yeah, because obviously you were there with me then. So the days that we actually spent in there.
So the
as in like,
yeah,
the 3, yeah.
So it was a Sunday, New Year's Day was Sunday the 1st of January.
Yeah.
We were at the hospital for 10 o'clock. It was around about 11:45 that we found the news.
So I don't remember any of that.
Yeah.
I don't remember the times or anything.
About 11:45 we found out the news that Destiny had passed.
Mm-hmm.
At that point we were left for a little while and then we were
Put onto the Willow Suite.
put onto the Willow Suite in a private room.
Which is the name of the suite where the bereaved parents
Yeah.
go.
So at that point, you had a few doctors and nurses come in saying, we're sorry for your loss and things like that.
A lot of them coming in saying,
But and then obviously them basically saying, well, the baby still has to be delivered. So they had to organise that pretty much.
They gave
away.
us options, and that was the safest one. I can't remember what the others were now. Remember?
I can't remember exactly what they were, but that was the safest option to have
deliver.
the drugs to force the labour and to deliver.
Because if the baby had stayed inside me, then I could have died.
Yes.
Because obviously it's preeclampsia. It's only going to get worse. With preeclampsia, the only way to, thank you, because again, something else that hubby's touched on. The only way to treat preeclampsia is to deliver the baby. So from the minute that it's diagnosed and they know that's what it is, it doesn't matter if you are only 23 weeks like I was, that baby has to come out.
Yeah,
because now it's a matter of life or death.
Yeah, it's linked to the placenta.
Yes.
And while the placenta is still inside the woman.
Yep.
If it's false or defective in any way, that can then have
and the fact that she had already passed inside me is another reason why, because obviously that can make me very ill. It can actually poison my blood.
Yeah.
There's loads of different things that can happen to the mother. So that's why they have to deliver the baby ASAP.
Yeah.
So I do remember one of the safest, I think there was about 3 different options.
Yeah,
but again, by that time, all you can hear is your baby's died. You're not really listening to anything. But I do remember them saying that would be the safest option to take the drugs, like you said, which will bring the labour on.
Yeah.
Because obviously you have to bring it on because you're not going to really go into, well, some ladies do, but again with complications. You wouldn't normally go into labour at 22, 23 weeks, would you?
Yeah.
So that's why they have to give you the drugs to bring on the labour so you can deliver the baby. Something else I was going to say then. It will come back to me. Something about delivering her. Oh, and I remember just being worried because, again, going through this for the first time, Malika was a natural birth and Jackson was a caesarean. And I remember just saying to them, but
You can't.
I have to have her naturally, but how does that work? Because I knew that after having Malika, I won't go all the way into that, but basically with Malika I had a 4th degree tear. So after that baby, I knew that the babies would have to be sections. So Jackson was a section, but then with Destiny, because she was so tiny, remember she passed at 23 weeks plus 2 days. She was a little baby.
Yeah, so they said that there wouldn't be an issue because she's so small, it's not going to cause any lasting damage.
That was another worry.
Yeah.
So I'm already thinking, oh my gosh, she's passed, but I can't have babies naturally. Since what happened with the 4th degree tear, how do we get her out? So that's another thing that I was stressed and worried about.
Yeah.
And they reassured me she's tired. And do you remember I kept asking, how big's the baby going to be? Like, how big? Like, and they're like, seriously, she's going to be tiny. And I'm telling you what, she wasn't even a pound. She was tiny. She was...
well, we'll get to that bit.
Yeah, we'll get to there. I'll tell you.
So they started up on the drugs to bring forth the labour.
Yeah.
And then we had to go through the agonisation
process,
of calling the family.
Yeah.
And letting them know.
Yeah.
Do
you remember what the drugs were called?
No, not.
There's 2 that you take orally, and there was one that they have to place in your private area. If I'm
that was right.
I think that's the last one, and then that really gets it started. Yeah.
So we called the family. And then obviously your sister was your mum and your dad that came up.
No, my dad.
Your dad, your sister and your dad came up on a Sunday.
Yeah.
And they were there for a few hours, and then
they went home to stay with the kids.
Yeah, I took them home because obviously I need to get some stuff for you.
Back to our house.
Yeah, back to our house.
Because obviously we still had Malika and Jackson that had to be looked after.
Yeah, so they kindly
stayed there.
Stay at our house with Malika and Jackson so that I could be at the hospital 24/7 with Michelle. And I just remember we just had, we just put music on to try and make support. Nothing at that point. We'd be alright for a little while, and we'd literally just burst into tears out of nowhere.
After this was though, I think before.
Yeah, this was after.
Because to be fair, before I had her, we were in there like there were times we were busting joke. Going to be blatantly honest, we were kind of like getting back to not normal, but once that's happened, like what can you do? You can't change the outcome. So we were just trying to, and again, we've got 2 other children at home that we need to try and stay strong for.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, that soon changes when the labour comes on, because you instantly remember that you're in all this pain, but there's not feel the pain, but at the end of it, you're going to have an amazing baby to take home.
Yeah.
Like, there is no baby to take home. And that's when it started to really hit, and that's when the jokes stopped. There was no room for any more jokes.
I think the change happened because obviously we were trying to be strong for the kids.
Yes, of course.
So while the kids were there, we were trying to be as strong as possible for them. I just remember when we said to Malika,
oh gosh, yeah.
Unfortunately, Destiny's passed, your baby sister.
We had to call the kids in the room to tell them.
We called the kids in the room to tell them. Obviously, Jackson wouldn't understand, he was too young. But Malika did understand, and Malika was basically saying, okay, that's okay. Yeah, that's
okay. That's what she said. That's okay.
That's okay.
If it has to be me and Jackson, that's okay, she said. And it was like, wow. And obviously we were in tears then as well, because she was so the things with Malika, she had Jackson and she was so looking forward to having a baby sister. She could not wait. I probably will post the video on my page at some point this week. I found it this week, of the video when we actually announced to Malika that we've had the scan where we found out the baby was a girl. And it is hard to watch back now, but you'll see how excited she was to be having a sister. Yeah. So.
And I think, at that point during the afternoon, we took the kids home. I was a little bit concerned taking the kids home because then Michelle was there on her own. So, I tried to get back
but you were quick.
As possible. Via McDonald's because we need some food. Well, I think it was that time there, but it was just the 2 of us, where your thoughts could only be on the news that you've been given and how upsetting it was.
Yeah.
They then turned around to the chaplain?
The chaplain, yeah.
Would come around next day, which was Monday.
No, he wasn't a chaplain.
It was a
chaplain
vicar,
came to the house. I think it was like a vicar or a bishop.
Yeah,
to actually do a blessing.
To do a blessing, yeah.
Once she was born.
Yeah. He was yeah, he was, wasn't he?
Yeah, that was afterwards.
So basically the Sunday night.
But do you remember how she was born? 'Cause it was quite special, wasn't it? Do you remember how she came out?
Yeah, I remember. I'm going to that.
You remember?
So that was a Sunday. So on the Monday.
Yeah.
Hold on. Yeah, Monday the 2nd.
Yeah.
Michelle was having a job, but she was getting more and more pain during the day. So we knew that things were progressing. And
I just felt like I needed to push.
Yeah.
And the midwife was like, if you need to push,
just push.
Just push and start pushing.
So then I just remember Michelle pushing and pushing.
To music, because some beautiful music on.
Yeah, she had some
relaxing.
Our sister-in-law bought us a relaxing music CD.
Yeah.
And luckily they had a CD player in there, so they able to do that. And then all of a sudden, about 20 to 11, I think it was at night. This is the Monday night. I just remember Michelle saying, "She's here."
I just felt I leave my body.
Yeah.
But it was so beautiful. I'll just quickly explain this. Remember, as a woman, I've been told that I can never give birth naturally again. So as much as this could have been the worst possible outcome, it was beautiful that I was actually able to have her naturally and to feel her leave my body, because that was like a part of our bonding time. You know, mothers who've got children, you know what I'm talking about. When you're giving birth to them and you're pushing them down, that part, when you can actually feel them and they're entering into the world, as much as she was really, really tiny, that was part of our bonding time. So I was just blessed to even be privileged to have been able to go through that. Okay, not a lot of people will understand what I mean, but it could have been the fact there, oh, your child's died and we'll have to have a caesarean. Now, I've had 3 caesareans and you don't have that same bonding when you can actually push them out. And that's something that I always wanted to do again. So because she was so tiny, I was able to. So that was just amazing.
Yeah, so I just remember saying, "She's here." And I said, "Are you sure?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm sure she is." So instantly I looked. And
they asked us before if we wanted to look, because they have to ask you.
Yeah.
Because remember, the baby is deceased and not everyone knows how to take that, even the parents.
Yeah,
so the midwives always say, "Would you like to see the baby?" They ask you beforehand.
Yeah,
and we said no. Because I didn't know. No, in the beginning. I'm about long before you even start the pushing process. They speak to you. And we said no. Glenn kind of went along with me, to be fair. I was just like, no, I don't think I can. But once she was here...
that went out the window.
Yeah, Glenn was just like... I remember him just pulling back the sheet. Yeah.
Pulling back the sheet. She was born in the amniotic sac. And it was basically about that big.
Yeah, she was actually still in her sack.
In her sack with her legs hunched up in like that kind of position.
Yeah.
So obviously then we buzzed, all the nurses came in, did what they had to do.
They were like, "Oh, let's have a look." And they were like, "Oh, you're right, yeah." And then they burst the sack and
the sack, took her away to then be dressed and looked.
They took her away, and then they brought clothes in for us to choose what we would like her to be dressed in, and that was hard. I remember finding that hard.
Yeah.
I think I basically left that to Glenroy. I was kind of looking through bits and pieces, but I wasn't interested. By then, if you can imagine, I've just had a baby that I can't take home. I'm not interested in looking at clothes to put her in. I was devastated at that point.
Yeah, so they clothed her and they brought her back in this little basket. And I think I remember at that point, you were sitting on the bed.
Yeah.
And they brought her to me. So I just held a little basket with her there. And the first thing I did was kiss her face. I think Michelle at that point was like, a bit apprehensive about it. Couldn't do anything. Didn't want to, touch her or anything like that.
I couldn't bear to look or anything.
But I think, in hindsight, Michelle seeing me do that, then, gave her that sense of it's okay. We need to do this.
Yeah.
Because it's nothing that obviously you never experienced it before, and I just knew personally that every second that she's in that, my hands in that basket is precious.
Oh yeah.
Even though it's such devastating circumstances.
Yeah.
It's precious. So I have to take every opportunity I can.
Of
because
course.
I'm not gonna see
her go to school.
I'm not gonna see anything
or her
like
go
that.
to nursery, or her grow up, or her get married, or her have children. Nothing like that. So you're right. It's like you quickly go into like, okay, this is my chance to spend time with her. And you could request for the baby to be brought in, take away, brought in, take away. They were really helpful.
Yeah, because we had it for about an hour and a half, and then we were like, yeah, let's have to, take her out for a while, and we requested any time that we needed. We wanted to have that time with her.
Yeah.
So then the next day, which was the Tuesday, I believe.
Yeah, it was.
We had the vicar come and do a blessing over Destiny, and on a Monday they basically asked, would they have a photographer that can take some pictures? Do you want to? Would you like to do that? And at first Michelle was like, no, it's too much. It's too much. I
didn't see the sense to it.
Yeah,
I was like, why are we going to want pictures with our baby who's not alive?
I said to her, you don't want to regret taking the pictures.
And he was so right.
Because if anything else, that is the one lasting memory that we're going to have of her.
Yeah.
So I said to her, we've got to do this. We've got to take these pictures.
Exactly.
Because it's healing for us as well.
Yeah. Because
I can't imagine being in a place here now, 3.5 years later, where we can speak about it and be quite candid in the way that we speak about it and be comfortable with speaking about it.
Yeah.
If we hadn't done that.
It's true.
Because I think that was a massive part of our healing process, being able to sit there and look at the pictures and reminisce of the moments that we had took with pictures. Even though they were so sad, it was a healing mechanism.
Yeah, because they're amazing, because they did us a picture book.
Yes.
And then we've got all the photos on a memory stick.
Yes.
And I remember going to collect them. It's all free of charge. And I'm telling you, if for 1 second I can't even remember where we put the book, I'll go into panic, don't I? Glenn Robert's Destiny's book, and he's like, calm down, it's in the drawer. It's he always knows where it is. And the last panic I had is when we moved house. Where's Destiny's book? Because I know where we kept it, and we kept it in quite a safe place away from the children, because it's a precious book to us. And I couldn't remember whether we packed it or not. Because it's not something you're going to look through every day.
Yeah.
And I was like, Destiny's book. And he was like, calm. I know for a fact I've packed it. And I'm like, are you sure? You sure? And then when we started to unbox and we moved here and I found it, and it was just like, oh, because that's all I've got left of them. Obviously, are the memories, but the books that I can look at and the memory stick. So I'm just glad that you taught me into doing that.
Yeah, so that happened the Tuesday afternoon, and then we went home the Tuesday evening.
Yeah.
It just, we came home, and by that time, Michelle's mum and dad and her sister were at the
just
house.
Dad. It was two sisters.
Oh, two sisters.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We're at the house, and we just remember coming in, sitting down, and it's kind of zoning out, because
definitely zoning out.
That then was like
reality.
Hitting
us. Yeah.
We still have Malika and Jackson that we still have to nurture and still have to be there for.
Yeah.
But
we've got a baby that we have to grieve for as well.
To grieve for. And for me, I know at that point that it was going to be hard. I know Michelle was just like completely on Planet Z.
Yeah.
And I knew that at that point I had to be the one to step up and just look after the family at that point, because if we were both in that state, who's going to look after the kids?
Exactly.
So,
I'm going to stop you there.
Yeah.
Because we're running over that question.
Oh, yeah.
Because what you're saying might go into another, so I'm going to stop you there.
Next question.
Okay, so basically that was about explaining in the hospital, yeah? Yeah, so that you're going to the next question now, which is great.
Okay.
So what was it like once we returned home?
It was like a different world.
Yes, that is the best way to explain it. Honestly, it was not normal anymore.
No.
Like, you'd see people laugh, because people do laugh, it's an emotion. And I'd be looking at them like, and in my head I'm thinking, why are they laughing? Because you forget that you're the ones grieving and the rest of the world carries on. So the rest of the world just looks strange. And I remember, I'll never forget this, Glenroy, you forget that just because your baby's died, you've still got to eat. And I remember going to Asda with Glenn, because obviously we've got kids we need to feed still. And it was the worst thing ever.
Yeah, we had
to come out. I mentioned in another video I had noise sensitivity. So even just people having a conversation, it was too much for me. I remember walking in there and I instantly felt like I had to come out. I felt claustrophobic. I just felt really ill. I felt really sick. And just walking past the baby section with all the clothes, and it was just too much for me. And I think we only needed like a loaf of bread, milk, basic things, and I couldn't do it.
She had to go back to the car, and I basically had to leave her in the car and go back into her and get the stuff because she couldn't, couldn't take it.
Couldn't handle it at all.
And I think it was 3 weeks before I went back to work. But in those 3 weeks, it was literally just kind of sitting there. We weren't even, we were just sitting there arm in arm. We weren't even talking to each other that much, to be honest.
No.
There weren't any words that we could say at that point. Because one, we were still in shock about what had happened.
Yeah.
And two, we were just trying to deal with the situation because we knew that we had to be there for the kids.
And what you need to remember is I still look like a woman that's just had a baby because I have.
Yeah.
The only difference was she wasn't in my arms.
Yeah.
You have to leave the hospital with empty arms. And it was hard for me to even do something simple like take a bath. So for those ladies that are watching, you know what the skin's like on your stomach after you've had a baby. It's a bit loose. And I remember lying in the bath one evening and just seeing all my loose skin and just bursting into tears and just saying, Glenn, right, I can't cope. Just looking at my stomach and just thinking, again, my body, what have you done? Like, what? My body's failed me. Why has this happened? Why has she died? Like, it was just horrible. Because you look like a woman that's just had a baby because you have. And that's the most confusing thing. And that's where you really need to take charge of your mental health because it can really push you over the edge. But the great thing about my mental health is I've kind of always sought counselling for all different things. So I knew that this was something that I could not leave. I knew this was too serious to leave. I couldn't afford to be ill because I have children that I need to look after. So I made sure my name went straight onto a bereavement counselling list, which we didn't get seen straight away. And this is another change that I think needs to be made. I'm not sure how, because I do understand that there's not just me. There's many people that need counselling, and I understand that. But I think when you are grieving any type of loss, bereavement counselling, I think that you should not be on the waiting list for a crazy amount. I'm talking we were on the list for months. Yeah. And I remember calling back the one day on the way to get the kids from school, I remember it vividly, and crying down the phone saying, any places, I need someone, any places. Like, I was literally a mess. And then saying, I'm so sorry, nothing's come available yet. And just thinking, right, do you know what? I'm going to have to go to Birmingham then. And we found a place in Birmingham called Edward's Trust. My good friend Annie, shout out to you because you told me about Edward's Trust. And we sought it out and we spoke to them, and oh my gosh, if anyone needs bereavement counselling, Edward's Trust in Birmingham, they are amazing. Obviously now with the COVID, it might be done over the phone now, but they are amazing. They even have a child's room because obviously Malika needed a lot of counselling as well. To be fair, it wasn't as much as we thought she would need. They were really pleased with her. But in her room, it was just like really, it was beautiful. There was murals all across the walls and loads of toys for her to play with, and that was really good to bring her out of the shell because Malika was a shy child back then, really shy. So to be in a room with just her and the counsellor, she had to feel comfortable so that she could start to talk. And we brought her a doll, didn't we? She had this doll that she actually named after her sister, and to this day she's got her. A little black doll that wears a pink dress, and she calls her Destiny, and that's her Destiny doll. And they were happy with Malika's progress, but they were a bit worried about her. They thought that she might be, I love you too, darling. They thought that she might be attached a bit too much to Destiny doll, and I had to assure them, honestly, she's not. Sometimes I find Destiny doll flung across the room, just like any other child does with their toys. Yep. She's not attached. On the wardrobe. Yeah, trust me. On the bed, she's not attached like that. It is a healthy attachment. She's just named her after her sister, and she falls asleep with her, just like a teddy bear, just to give her comfort. And but yeah, she's still got Destiny doll to this day.
Yeah, so
sorry, baby.
So to answer the question, it was just like a different world when we came back home. For the first 3 weeks until I went back to work, and then it was different again when I had to go back to work because if it was because of our situation at the time, I had to go back. I didn't really have a choice but not to go back. Yeah. If I, and if in hindsight, sometimes you can think, well, take as much time as you need, but then you still have a family that you've got to provide for. and because we've recently moved, we've only been in Wolverhampton 5 months at this stage, 6 months at this stage, because we moved in July 2016 from Birmingham, and I was still working in south of Birmingham. And I just remember that first day. It was probably one of the hardest days that I've lived. Having to drive 30 miles to work at 7:30 in the morning, leaving Michelle, knowing that she's in the state that she is, but I had to go, and we both had to understand that I had to go to work. By this time, Malika decided that she wanted to go back to school because she wanted to have normality, so she went back, I think, 2 weeks before.
Yeah.
She had a week at home and said, I want to go back to school.
Yeah. And we thought it was best to take her back.
We thought it was best to take her back.
Yeah.
So she had that normality. And that's one of the things that I think, in hindsight, was, we made the right decision
Definitely.
In that point.
Yeah. We didn't want things to be too much on show to the children.
Yeah.
We wanted her to get back to her friends and just get back to living a normal life.
Yeah. So obviously Michelle was then just at home with Jackson.
Yeah. With health anxiety.
Actually, the first, I remember one of the other difficult days, the first day we took Malika back to school. Obviously the school were aware.
Yeah.
And Malika's teacher at the time, we just remember walking up to the gates, and she spotted us, and the teacher and the teaching assistant were just in tears before we even got to the door.
Yeah.
And I just remember the teacher just wrapping her arms around Michelle, and then literally for about 2 minutes, 3 minutes straight, just crying.
Yeah.
Malika went into school, but I think, that I think was a quite poignant thing. I think it helped Michelle a lot.
We knew she was safe there.
We knew she was safe
and the
there.
school said if at any time she needs to come out of class or she needs to talk, they would accommodate that. They were absolutely amazing, and she used to have Friday afternoons off to go to counselling.
Yeah,
they're really good.
So that was a difficult day because seeing that, just the heartfelt love that we had, and I think it was probably 2 weeks, and then I remember this is not long before I went back to work. Actually, I remember saying to Michelle, because obviously Facebook at this time, they knew that. Did we tell? We did. We made an announcement.
In the end, we did.
We did, and we weren't going to. In an announcement we made an announcement that we were having our third child. And I said to Michelle, you know what? I think it's time that we put a message to say exactly what's happened. And this is one of the most important lessons, I think, because when you speak out about what's happened, it's only then that things like this happen, where you get the outpouring of love and
the support was amazing
from people who've gone through. Because as we know, miscarriage is for some reason such a taboo subject that no one wants to talk about.
Right.
But
it happens to 1 in 4.
Yeah.
1 in 4. Those are the stats.
It is so frequent. It's
what is it? 15 babies a day.
Yeah, it's disturbing how frequent it actually happens.
Yeah.
But in the same way that when somebody's pregnant, we're all like, yeah.
Yeah.
I know it's not an easy thing to say, but
of course,
this is the reason why we're doing this.
Yeah.
Because we've come to learn, through the time that we've gone through our, through our faith, that telling our story will help somebody.
Of course.
And that is our mandate.
That's right.
We want to be able to help people who have gone through it and maybe not, maybe experience different emotions to us.
Yeah.
And people who may not have gone through it, but will still
it's
help
education,
them to.
Isn't it?
It's an educational thing.
Yeah.
And I'm losing my train of thought now.
It's me, sorry.
But going back to what I was saying, the first day that I had to leave Michelle was probably about 6 weeks in the whole thing, from the time that she went to hospital until the time about 5 weeks. From the time that she first went into hospital until the time that I had to go back to work. And from my perspective as a man, I just remember driving to work and thinking, is Michelle going to be okay? She's there with Jackson. What if she has a panic attack or anything like that? Because she didn't have them before this happened. And I just remember getting to work, and I remember my line manager meeting me at the door and just saying to me, just take your time. As soon as I walked in the office, I was kind of swarmed by everybody. Just saying, "Are you all right?" And I just remember sitting at my desk, and I just broke down. Literally within 3 seconds of sitting at my desk, I just completely broke down because
you're expected to work, aren't you? Just carry on.
Yeah, I expected to go there and work.
And
you just can't fathom the feelings that you have. It's very hard to explain the inner feelings that you have for dealing with something like this. And what my pain is different to every other father that's out there. They feel it differently. Because on the one aspect, we're always going to feel it differently to the mothers because the mothers carry the child. They have that connection physically. That fathers don't have until the baby arrives. But emotionally, you get attached.
Of course.
You speak to the bump as it's growing, and obviously
you feel them kick.
You feel them kick, yeah, and everything like that. So
yeah,
it was just hard, and it was difficult. Those couple of weeks were some of the hardest I've ever gone through, because we never ever thought. I think Michelle mentioned this maybe on the first live, that we never ever asked the question as why it happened to us.
Why no way.
We always go for, live on the mind that everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
There was a reason why that happened,
and that would be hard for some people.
Yeah,
and we're not expecting everyone to be there at all, or even right away. But for us, it was like, well, you know what? If she was meant to be here, then she would be. Everything happens for a reason.
And on top of having to deal with, that, I then went to work, found out that they were having a restructure. And I just remember coming home that first day, and I said to Michelle, I'm going to lose my job.
Oh, yeah.
I just had this overwhelming feeling that I knew that was going to be the case.
Yeah.
And knowing that the funeral was the following week, because by that time we'd had the date for the funeral. The funeral being the 31st of January.
Yeah.
And knowing that at that point, that's when the decision was going to be made as to who was going. Which I kind of knew was me at the time, but I remember going back the next day after dealing with the funeral to be told that you're losing your job basically, and that there are other positions that you can take, but they're kind of like lower positions and lower paid, which I was never going to do because I know my skill set and I know what I'm worth to a workplace, and I was like, well, regardless of the situation that I've gone through with losing my daughter, in some ways I don't know where that mental strength comes from, because really and truly, when I look back at it, I'm like, how did I make that decision like that?
Yeah.
You would have just thought, well, you need the money, so just work. But obviously, a lot of factors came in. There was the distance between work and home, which I was doing 300 miles a week.
A lot.
60 miles a day to get to work. I wasn't getting home. If I got home before 6:30, it was a blessing, and I finished work at 5.
And I would have to speak to him on the phone all the way until he got in, because I was still having frequent panic attacks.
Yeah. Sometimes it was like 7:15, 7:30. I'm just getting.
Sometimes I'd be crying down the phone, especially if he was stuck in traffic.
Yeah,
it's horrible.
And that was also that was difficult to for Michelle to handle and for myself. And I knew that I didn't know at the time, but I knew that it was someone up above saying that you had to make the change now.
Yeah, definitely.
So I then left there. And lo and behold, I managed to find a job a week later, which was great. So, is that last question? Was there anything?
Nope, there's more.
I'm just conscious of time. Go on.
Did you ever feel, and this can be at any point in our journey, that you were just that you were just disregarded because you were just the dad? Did you ever feel like that? Did anyone ever make you feel like that, or any situations that arose?
Well, yeah. From the hospital, straight from the hospital, because everything was geared towards Michelle.
Yeah.
is obviously, yes, she's been through it physically, and I'd get that. She's the one that she's the patient, and I have to care for her.
Yeah.
But
mentally, we're both patients.
But mentally, we both lost a child.
That's right.
And there was no recognition from that from any of the nurses towards me. Mm-hmm. And obviously, I'm in a broken state, so I'm just sitting there not saying anything. And this is where sometimes, you know, you don't know where the mental strength comes from, but it just comes.
Yeah.
I just remember Michelle basically having a go at them and saying, "My husband's here too, you know."
I just snapped.
You know,
I was in my own world, but I knew what was happening. I could see Glenn just literally just sitting there like he was a visitor. And it's like, he should not be treated like he's just come to visit me. And I was just like, hold on a minute. And as I said in my other live, I did not feel good, you know, having to speak up in such a way. But once I did, we got the results. And then he was then looked after.
Yeah, and I think in general, when you look at in terms of aftercare for miscarriages, it is mainly geared to the mothers.
That's right.
There isn't much out there for us as fathers, if anything at all.
Everything I've seen, it's a dad's group where the dad has created it themselves.
Yeah. It's something that there isn't anything from NHS side, really.
No.
Unless you have to go into personal counselling.
Yeah.
That is geared for fathers that have to go through a miscarriage.
That's right. And also the deeds to our daughter's grave. I was going to go and get them, but they're in our room and our daughter's asleep. I don't want to wake her up. I'll show you in another live.
So there were a couple of instances where they sent information.
Yeah.
Which was just in Michelle's name.
They sent the deeds to the house, but the deeds were just in my name. And Glenn was at work. And I remember looking at the number on there and ringing them straight away and saying, can you explain this? Because I've never had the deeds to a grave before. I didn't really know what it was, what you do with them. So they explained, and I remember saying to them, can you do the paperwork again, please? And they asked if there were any mistakes on there. I said, well, it's not a mistake, but this deed only has my name on. It's our daughter's grave. I'd like a document with both of our names on, because at the end of the day, this is my husband's baby as well. So they were kind of like, oh, but you just have to, again, open your mouth and speak up for yourself. And I said, listen, I'm not accepting this. And I ripped that one up. And I said, I want you to send me another copy of the deed with my husband's name on. Our baby died. It wasn't just mine. And I think it was the next day, wasn't it? We got an envelope in the post and it was the deeds with both of our names on. Yeah. So you just have to speak up.
And, you know, it's never an easy thing. I think.
Evening, Pastor.
Yes, evening, Pastor. I think that was one the going back to work was one of the hardest days. Obviously, the funeral was the hardest day.
Oh, yeah.
And for all the dads that, you know, go through that, you know, because you never have that physical connection to the child, it's not easy. It's not very easy. I just remember we got to, you know, the funeral parliament. It was a great service.
It is.
Even Malika had the mental strength to read a poem, you know, on behalf of her sister. And I remember them saying to me, okay, you know, after the service, obviously we're going to go to the burial plot to obviously, you know, finalise and do the burial. Do you want to? Do you want the coffin to be going in the car?
Yeah.
Or do you want to carry it? And I said, no, I want to carry it because I know that was the last moment that I was going to have with her. And I remember just...
Hey, bro.
Just remember walking out the chapel to, you know, be handed the coffin. And this time we didn't... The coffin was actually like a shoebox.
Yeah, it was tiny.
Like a pair of Nikes. That's how small it was.
Yeah.
We didn't actually realise at the time that actually it said... He didn't actually have her name on it. It just said baby of Michelle Clark.
It was horrible because some things I don't prepare you for. And I remember getting out the taxi and walking up to the hearse with her coffin in the hearse, but obviously it was open. And some
wasn't open.
No, I remember touching the coffin. The back of it was open. And we already had family standing there waiting for us. And I remember walking, I said hello to everybody, but I'm still kind of in a daze. Yeah. And I remember going straight to my daughter's coffin, putting my, I was not fine, but I wasn't crying at this point. And I walked straight to her coffin, placed my hands on the coffin and just started bawling because I knew this was the last time. And it's like I didn't want to let her go. It was horrible. All the family started, well, not all. It was a very small funeral because I think if we had it too big, I would have passed out. I just wanted it small. And then to go home, we had a handful of people. This is exactly how we wanted it, nice and small. And like Glenroy said, I was very, very shocked because they don't prepare you. It didn't actually say Destiny's name. It said baby of or child of Michelle Clark. So for me to even see my name on a casket and I'm alive, that freaked me out. I wasn't told that was going to be the case. I didn't even know that's what happened. And again, baby of Michelle Clark. There's no mention of the dad. And to this day, that does not sit right with me. But when her headstone's up, you know, it will show that this baby has her parents, two parents, her mum and dad. There was no, they didn't ask either, did they? There was, very strange. I don't know.
That was never asked.
Put it in the comments if you know, if it's happened to you and that's the case, if it's meant to be baby of, and they just put the mum's name. I don't know if that is what happened, but we just found that a bit strange.
Yeah, and you know, you go through a plethora of emotions at a time because you know that the service is building up to that final point.
Yeah.
And I remember just being handed the coffin and we started walking and I could barely walk. Now, obviously, Michelle was next to me and, you know, I kind of just remember I wasn't even walking in a straight line.
No, I thought he was going to drop out. I honestly did.
But I knew I wasn't going to drop out.
No. Obviously, you know that, but you're like, I'm watching and I'm just like, oh my gosh. Like, I've never seen him like this before, so.
No. But when you have come to that realisation that is literally going to be it, you kind of don't know what to think. You kind of run on autopilot.
Yeah.
You kind of run like you're daydreaming. There's no proper explanation for how I really felt at that point.
No. You would have rather not done it, but it was still an honour for you to carry her to her last resting place.
There was no way I wasn't going to do it.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want I wanted the last person who held her was me. I didn't want anybody else to take that away from me. So as much as I really, when looking back, I weren't in a fit state to do it. It was no way other way it was going to happen. I wanted the last person to hold her, either be me or Michelle, but it had to be me in this case. And
that's only right, because I held her in my stomach for months. So I was just like, Glenroy needs to do this.
So, we had the burial, and when we come back home, and I just remember, we had family in the house, and, there was food and that going around. I just remember me and Michelle being on the stairs, so I had...
Yeah, we couldn't go in straight away.
We couldn't go in the room.
No.
Just, stood on the stairs, just kind of like, in a whirlwind, in a daze, just looking at each other.
Like what's just happened.
Yeah.
Just buried our daughter. Yeah.
More tears and that then. But...
And again, concentrating on the kids.
Yeah.
Because Malika seemed okay, but every so often we'd hear her crying, or we'd go upstairs and she'd be crying, so we had to really keep a close eye on her as well.
Yeah, but going back to the question in terms of not recognising the dads, there's a lot that needs to be done in that respect.
Yeah.
Because every child in this world has two parents. Whether the dads
around
hold up their own and do what they're supposed to do or not, they still have a father.
Of course.
And the fathers still need to be recognised in the same way that the mothers are.
That's right.
Because no mum can make a child without dad.
That's right.
So the powers that be the NHS needs to figure out a strategy that it needs to be collective, because it shouldn't really be a situation for the mother, it should be their parents.
Yes.
So any aftercare should be their parents.
That's right, it's the aftercare. Yeah.
Anything that they do in terms of counselling, in terms of, just help, it should be their parents, not just the mother.
Totally agree.
So that's something that they need to change. And I think more things like this need to be spoken about, more time. We're here now to tell our story, as we said before, to help people. Because people don't want to speak about it.
No.
Until somebody else speaks about it.
Yeah.
I think,
or they feel they can't.
Yeah, they feel
because
that they
society's
can't.
like, why are you
Yeah.
speaking about your dead child?
Yeah.
That's not normal.
Yeah,
The thing is,
yeah.
that's our normal.
Yeah.
That's our reality.
and that's it we're realising, because we said earlier that how common it actually is.
Yes.
You know, people are quite happy to, you know, announce their pregnancies and things like that, and there's nothing wrong with that. Everyone wants to celebrate a new life coming into the world, you know. For us being in faith and being Christians, that's a blessing from God that every child comes into the world. That's what He wants.
Yeah.
So it's always a blessing. But in the same way that it is so common to do that, we need to talk about this, because as we know as well, as we discovered that during pregnancy, these things aren't talked about.
Yeah.
They're not talked about in any of the books or the guides. And one of the things that we know through experience is that you can't go by the books all the time.
No.
They like to go by the books. Every pregnancy is unique to every individual. No one person has the same pregnancy and every time. It's all different. So how can you have a definitive book saying, outlining this, that and the other?
Yeah.
You can't.
Yeah.
It just doesn't, you know, that's something they need to change. They need to be able to adapt to the situation of the pregnancy.
Of course.
Because, as you said, every pregnancy is different. Every person is unique in their own way. No two people are built the same.
Yeah.
So, because no two people are built the same, there's no two pregnancies that can be the same. So you can't have a book saying, if it's this, because what affects one won't affect the other.
That's right.
So, you know, those are, I think, the kind of strategies that they need to change. Yeah, it is, yeah, exactly, and it's pushed under the rug. So
Definitely.
and it can't be, you know, something that needs to, you know, the powers that be need to be made aware of. You can't, I don't know if anyone, we know people who are trained in midwifery, and that obviously they're taught by the book.
Yeah.
But I think there needs to be a strategy change, you know. Yes, you need to be taught by the book for the fundamentals, but then you need to have some common sense.
Yes.
And say that there's going to be lots of different things that you're going to encounter.
And just know that a woman knows her body.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's her first child or her sixth child, she knows her body.
Yeah, because you hear it so many times, especially towards the end of a pregnancy.
Yeah.
Where they say, oh, we don't feel right. And they've gone into hospital and they're like, oh, you're fine, go home.
Yeah. And then the baby's died.
And then the baby's died.
I know that's in a lot of cases. A lady who I know had preeclampsia and she was sent home to continue labouring, even though they told her she wasn't in labour. Her mother-in-law was not having it, took her back to the hospital. Baby was almost ready to be born, checked, because obviously they have to check you first, and there was no heartbeat.
Yeah.
And maybe if they had kept her, let's just say, maybe the baby would have still died, but maybe if they had kept her at the hospital, they could have had a chance at saving that baby.
Yeah, I think sometimes the common sense factor has to be a lot more, because the baby's grown inside a woman. That woman knows her body and knows when things are going to don't feel right. Yeah, they know. All the mothers that are on this live at the moment know when things do not feel right, and what the hospitals need to do is acknowledge that, and not just push it under the rug because it doesn't say so in the book, or they can't be asked to deal with that situation because they think, oh, it's, you know, why are we doing this? Oh, nothing's going to happen. They always say there's the saying that prevention is better than cure. Yeah. But in this case, there is no cure, because if the baby dies, where's the cure? Well,
I know somebody who was paid out a lot of money after her baby died due to negligence, and I won't name the hospital and I won't name the individual. But what I will say is I know this person very well. One of their sisters went to school with my sister, so I know them very well. And I remember watching it on the news and just thinking, this is long before we lost Destiny. I remember watching it on the news and just thinking, how sad. Because no matter how much money she was awarded by the hospital, can't bring the baby back. No. Cannot bring her child back. You know, so even if they pay out for negligence, nothing will bring that baby back.
And yeah, to touch on that as well, we know that hospitals are under pressure because there's lack of nurses and lack of doctors. But it's something, we pay our taxes so that the NHS can run. They do need to listen to us more. Yeah, they need to listen to mothers more who are expecting, because As I said, the mother knows her body better than anybody else. Nobody can tell her mother what they're feeling inside because you're not going to go inside and feel it.
Yeah, yeah.
So even if they are midwives and they've experienced childbirth themselves, that don't mean anything because your childbirth is different.
Of course. Exactly.
So they need to, have a change of mindset in how they deal with things. And maybe that way less of these occurrences may happen because they may be able to pick up things earlier.
That's right.
It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to stop it from happening, but it's just having that mindset. So if a expectant mother comes to you saying something's not right, you deal with every possible situation before you send that time, so that you've covered all bases.
Yes.
Because most of the time they're just checking the one thing and saying everything's okay.
Yes. And that's where Dancing for Destiny was born from, because we just thought basically that we want to now raise money to save babies' lives. And we fundraise yearly. Wasn't able to do it this year because of the COVID, but we fundraise yearly for SAMS, and we basically called ourselves Dancing for Destiny because we feel that joy now, and we know that in time other parents that are going through the same thing will. And the Bible tells us that our mourning will be turned into dancing. So we just thought dancing for destiny. Amazing. So that's what we do every year. And as I said, we help raise money. We help SAMS. SAMS stands for Stillbirth and Neonatal Death Society or Death Charity. And they're on Facebook if anybody needs them. They're absolutely amazing, and we fundraise for them yearly. They're great. They're absolutely amazing. So if you've recently lost a child and you are still really in limbo and you need support, please do seek it with SANS. There's SANS overall, but they also have like different SANS in different areas. So there'll be SANS Wolverhampton, they'll probably have one in Birmingham. You have to go online and check. I don't think everywhere's got one, but they are spaced around where you can get to them. And I was very fortunate to have moved to Wolverhampton, and there actually is a SANS Wolverhampton. But you can call the main line in London and speak to them. You can just speak to them and just say, listen, I feel alone today, Oh, definitely. I think that would be a great idea, Pastor. Before we go...
Is there any more questions?
I've got one last question for you, and it's just like basically what Pastor was saying.
Yeah.
Let me just double check how I've written it. Okay, so this is your chance to look in that camera, okay? Because we know now that some men, I won't mention any names, have reached out to us since we've been speaking about this and said, listen, it's happened to my wife as well. This has happened to me. This has happened to us.
Yeah.
I'd like you to look in that camera before we go. And what advice would you give to any men that have experienced child loss, that have gone through exactly what you have gone through?
The biggest thing for me, it's funny enough because this was said in our service today, our church service, is do not suffer in silence.
That's right.
That is the biggest thing. Do not suffer in silence. The longer, it is hard. It's one of the hardest things you'll ever go through. The loss of a child. It's different to losing a parent because you never, in some ways you expect your parents to go before you, but you never expect to lose a child. That is the common misconception sometimes that have. But not trying to divert away from the question. Do not suffer in silence. I believe that we as fathers need to stick together.
Definitely.
And if the authorities that don't want to set up anything, we need to set up something. Because healing comes from telling your story. And although I haven't told the whole story from my perspective, and you've had snippets of it here, that is something that I will do. I will go live myself and tell the whole story from my perspective.
That would be great.
I'm not much of a talker, but I know that this whole experience happened for a reason.
Yeah.
And now that we're in faith, now that we're Christians, we know that God has allowed this situation to happen so that we can provide healing to others going through that situation.
Yeah.
So, by the power of our story and our testimony, it will help somebody, and that is the mandate that we live by now. So, to all the fathers out there, if you are struggling to tell your story, don't be ashamed.
First, tell it to another father.
Yeah.
Maybe try that.
You know, for those of you who who have me on Facebook, message me, reach out to me, because apart from saying this, I haven't actually personally, I haven't reached out to others, because until you speak, you don't know who comes out. And now there's a couple of people that I know, well, not know personally, but I've had recent contact with, and that through my ministry in music, that I will be touching base with, because I know that they have gone through it. And when they say this, the phrase "sharing is caring" comes to the forefront here, because you can learn from each other's experiences, and you can have a sense of healing from sharing experiences with others.
Yeah.
Because you're never ever going to forget.
Of course not.
You're never ever going to put it to the wayside, but you'll be able to deal with it.
Yeah.
And, as someone said to us 2 years ago, we'll be doing this. No chance.
Yeah.
It comes to a point where, we are very comfortable now with this, dealing with and being able to speak about what's happened to us.
Yeah.
Some people may find it harder. Some people, it's different timescales for different people.
Of course.
And I think it is harder for fathers because of the fact that that connection isn't there. But we shouldn't be silent. We should not be silent.
Yeah.
We need to be able to speak out in the way that Michelle's done that, and does it through, doing it through Baby Loss Awareness Week, and being able to speak out about the different issues. I feel it's my duty, as a father who's gone through that situation, to tell my story. And if nothing else, somebody will resonate with that story and find a sense of solace and a sense of peace with it. And if that is the case, then I know that I've done my job.
That's right.
So that is my message to the fathers: to speak out. Don't be afraid to speak out. You'll know in your heart when the time is right.
Yeah.
Don't ever feel forced to say anything. But you'll know when the time is right. We feel that this time is right for us now. Yeah. And we feel comfortable with doing it. But don't ever feel that you can't speak out to somebody. And try and seek the bereavement counselling that you need. Yeah. Because we will need it. Every person who goes for a thing of bereavement child will need some counselling. Yeah. It's one of the biggest traumas that you can go through, and it is a lifelong trauma.
Keep your mind healthy.
You need to keep your mind healthy. Yeah. So you need to have the coping strategies and the mindset to know that, yes, things are going to change, but you'll be able to live with that fact that your baby is in heaven.
Yeah, well, that's just it. Yesterday, if you missed yesterday's live, I spoke about my coping strategy, and I took you through the whole story of how I began to cope. And obviously, because we have our faith, it's something that we can lean on. And I was able to then cope once I discovered, that I knew that I needed God. I gave the analogy about the car. So our car was broken for a while. We just got it back when we got it back Friday. And I was saying, once we knew the car was broken, we wouldn't take it to a dentist because the dentist would be like, why are you bringing a car to us? So when I realised that I could not cope, and as Glenn spoke about when I had to go back to work, I was like, right, well, I've got to go to who created me then, because if I'm broken, I need to be fixed, and only the person who created me can do that, my creator. So that's when I started to seek God. But what I'm saying to you is, everything that Glenn has said, just know there's a man right here that has gone through it. So if all you can manage to do right now is find yourself in his inbox, that's a start. The only way to begin, or the only way to start, people say, is to begin. The only way to begin is to make a start. Yeah. So if you can only do that, and even if you can just say, Glenn, it's happened to me too. That's all you have to say.
Yeah.
Because there is, this person's not on Facebook, but quite a good friend of yours, don't mention any names, we're not going to mention any names, but again, through coming out and saying what's happened to us, we realise it happened to them as well.
Yeah.
Somebody who my husband used to work with, and it's like, whoa, sometimes it's people really close to you, but people hold it to their chest because it's such a taboo.
Yeah.
But if it's happened to you, look at Simon Cowell, look at, there's so many different people I could say. Everyone's got a story. If you go on YouTube and look at some of the most successful people, you'll see that a lot of them went through something, and I mean went through something to get to where they are. And that's why we say we believe that everything happens for a reason, because rather than just pushing it away, they made that their story. They brought that story to life. They either wrote a book or they came out and spoke about it, and it's catapulted them forward because that was obviously their purpose, to share it and to help others. I don't think you're supposed to keep your pain hidden. Secrets make you ill. It's dangerous. You have to really reveal it to heal it, as I keep saying.
And obviously, because we are of faith in Christianity, we know that in the Bible it tells you that suffer not the little children. Yeah. We know that God didn't want Destiny to suffer. No. Which is why he took her to heaven at the time that he did. And we can find solace in that fact. And yes, you're right, because the first step is always the hardest one to make, which was, which was difficult for us. Once you speak out, it becomes easier.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So again, to all the men out there, if you have been through that situation, we need to connect. And
you know what? Take your time. Like Glenn said, there is no time frame on it.
We grieve differently.
Yeah.
And just to put it into perspective, Michelle's grief came literally instantly.
Oh yeah.
Mine, I believe, hasn't completely manifested yet, and I'll be truthfully honest with you.
Yeah.
It manifested a little bit last year.
Yes.
But it hasn't completely manifested yet. So I'm now personally dealing with that situation to put the strategies in place to deal with that for when it comes.
Yeah.
Because out of losing Destiny, I now have Praise and Shiloh.
Yeah.
So sometimes God takes away to give you a double portion. We have our double portion. We have Praise and Shiloh.
Yeah.
So don't you can turn anything that is heartache into something positive.
Yeah.
And that is now where we're the stage that we are at.
That's
we
right.
are turning the heartache that we had and turning it into positive mental thoughts and mental processes for you guys.
Of course.
So that is what that is what the purpose of this is.
Yeah.
If nothing else, is to let you know that it's not the end of the world.
No.
It feels like the end of the world, and you will feel that because you're human.
Yeah.
And you will feel that. But the grief process and the healing process is a long process.
Exactly.
Do not put time constraints on it.
No. Because we actually stopped, not so much stopped, but publicly we stopped fundraising for her headstone because I physically and more mentally couldn't do it anymore. But then I felt guilt, like, but she still hasn't got a headstone. And then when you go to the cemetery and there's all these little headstones, and it's like, we need to get her headstone down. And even though we do clean her space and make it look neat and tidy, but I had to stop for a while. And I remember putting a message on Facebook to let you all know, because obviously you've all helped and contributing to that. So I do keep up to date and let you all know, but I had to stop for a while because just fundraising to get the funds for it, I was finding it too much.
Yes.
But thanks to telling Facebook, we've got over halfway now, and we'll get there. We'll get the other half, and we'll get the headstone down. But right now, it's like we're just focusing on, because don't forget, even though we can speak about it, we still have to keep our minds healthy as well. Because if what we're doing now is to help other people, we have to make sure that we are healthy. A broken person can't help a broken person.
No.
So we have to still concentrate on our mental health as well.
Yeah.
But we're almost there, and we're in the process of changing her design as well, because before we designed it beforehand, can't speak.
Yes.
When we designed it, we weren't Christians, and we went for like a Disney type theme. Not going to get into all that now, but we're not having the Disney anymore. So we need to redesign it and basically get it down. But the main thing is, you know, we keep it clean and tidy.
Yeah, and just another thing, whether you know, I have to something I have to say, you know, because obviously we have our faith. Whether you believe in God or not, He's there to help you. He will always help you through every situation, because God loves everybody. So
right.
whether you believe in Him or not, that doesn't matter.
That's right.
Because in situations like that, you will find that people will, you know, cry out to God and say, "Why me? Why me? Why me?" But
and it's not for us to convince you.
No, it's not for us to convince you.
Yeah.
You know, we eventually, you know, we found our true peace and solace when we decided to give our lives to Christ.
Yes.
And we know now how we can do it through the support of, you know, through knowing God's there through every moment, through knowing that we have our brothers and sisters in church that will, our support network, that if we are feeling down, we can just have a phone call away from, you know, being pushed right back to where we need to be.
That's right.
But so, you
Hi,
know,
Stacey.
for those, you know, who may not, you know, may think that God isn't real.
Faith is belief, isn't it?
Faith is belief.
And that's why I say it's not for us to convince.
It's not for us to convince anybody, but we can say firsthand.
Of course.
That,
we know.
We know.
We know God is real.
Yeah. 100%.
And this is what I'm saying. Listen to the word belief. So if I was to try and convince you that this was a glass, okay, and you only believe that this was a glass because I'm telling you that was a glass, you don't really believe it's a glass. Do you understand what I'm saying? You're just saying it's a glass because I'm telling you it's a glass.
Yes.
I don't want anyone to go to Christ like that.
Yeah.
I want you to have your own encounter with Him, and that's what I'm praying for.
Yeah, we are not going to sit here and tell you what you need to do. Yeah.
That's what helped us.
Yeah,
we
weren't told that we had to, you know, come to Christ. We found out that, you know, that was a way that we coped. You know, by finding Christ, we were able to cope.
Yes.
And as I said, we now know that God does these things because He wants to call you to Him.
Oh, yes.
He wants to call everybody to Him because He loves everyone and He wants everyone for His kingdom. But sometimes it has to be a difficult situation or a heart-take situation for you to realise what is going on.
Yes.
And what is happening. So, you know, we're not here to say that this is something that you must do.
Yeah.
But we're here to say that when these things happen and you may encounter that, don't forget that little point.
Yeah. Don't just cry out to Him in despair.
Yeah.
And then basically once you get your life back on track, forget He's there. Because He loves you and He wants you to come to Him.
Because as Michelle says, He's the one that created us all at the end of the day. He allowed your mother and father to be able to bring you into the world.
Yeah.
So everything goes through Him.
Yeah.
And it's a blessing for every child to come into the world. When we were born, we were a blessing to come into the world. When you have children, they're a blessing to come into the world.
Yeah.
So just know that there is somebody there that is always watching your back. All He's waiting for you to do is realise it.
And accept Him.
Yeah.
And it's like I said in my live yesterday, we go to primary school, okay? And we sit there and we sing, He's got the whole world in His hands, He's got everybody here. And we grow up and we forget that.
Yeah.
But that is the truth.
Yeah.
He's got the whole world in His hands.
100%.
He's got everybody here.
Yeah.
So like I said, I was broken and I knew the only way that I could be fixed is to go to my Creator and give Him my life so that He could fix it.
Yeah. And yes, we're still going through that process. You know, it's been nearly 3.5 years since, you know, Destiny passed, and the healing process will still continue. But we know that we have the ultimate healer on our side.
That's right.
So for us, that is our, you know, our safe place and our can't think of the right word.
Everybody needs a saviour.
Yeah.
And, you know, unfortunately, some people will put their trust in drink before thinking, you know what, I need God. And I don't care how controversial that sounds. I don't care if Facebook wants to take this video down. It's the truth. Please share this video. That's the truth. We are created to need. Everybody needs a saviour. At some point in your life, you are going to go through something that you are not going to be able to deal with. And in most cases, and I was one of those people, remember when all this was happening, I didn't know God. I then called out because I didn't know where else to turn. And many people do that. But then once they're back on track, they forget. But you'll find when they forget, their life, when they start to have their swings and roundabouts again, they're back to square one. They won't know how to cope. For me, that shook me up so much, I never wanted to be in that position again. So since then, we've gone through other traumas, but now, because we have God on our side, it's easier for us to deal with. Does that make sense?
Yeah. We
have the tools now that we didn't have before. And that's all we're saying. You need to have the tools. So for instance, with the mechanics, and I'm going to go back to the car again. When the car breaks down, they have the tools to be able to fix the car. They don't just sit down there and say, oh, the car. They're able to fix the car because they've got the tools. With everything in life, we need the tools to be able to fix.
And the other thing is to remember as well, just to briefly, before we go, because you said it was going to be a short.
And my battery's going to go.
There is two parts to it, because there's physical healing and there's mental healing.
Yeah.
And spiritual healing. The physical healing can be done by men. There's no other person but God that can do spiritual healing. Right.
Not crystals. And not tarot cards.
Nobody else but God can heal you spiritually from that. Yeah. And that's, whether you believe in Him or not. When you're healed, when your mind and your body and when your mind and your soul is healed, right, it comes from God.
Exactly.
You will never, as Pastor said, you will never erase the memory of that loss.
Oh yeah.
But you will get to a place where we are now that we can say, yes, we have lost our daughter. We know the reason. Well, we don't. We know that it's happened for a reason. We know that she is in heaven, waiting for us to come, and we know that we're going to see her again. And that's the other side is that we we can take that.
Exactly.
We will go to heaven. We will see her, and she will. And we will be able to, be there as mother and father and say, yeah. This is,
we're so at peace with it now. Annie, you can vouch. What was I like on Instagram the other day? And I was like, these kids are giving me problem. It's only the one in heaven that's not giving me problem. And that's how I can speak about it now. Like, I am at peace. Like, as I said yesterday, she is in the better place, the best place that she can be in.
And just to say to everyone, just before we go, you will get to that place.
You will. You won't feel like it.
Yeah.
But you will get there.
You will get to that place.
Yeah.
You just gotta be mindful. You just got to not try and force the situation.
Right.
Do not try and force your healing. It will not work.
No.
If you're feeling the same way for 6 months, yes, that will happen.
Yeah.
But don't feel and don't put a negative spin on yourself saying, why am I feeling like this?
Yeah, it's normal.
It's normal.
Yeah.
Because everybody's grief has
and
a
if you are suicidal, can you please speak to somebody? Because I mentioned yesterday that I was saying a lot that I didn't want to be here anymore. Please don't hide when those feelings come.
Yeah.
Please make sure you do speak to somebody about them.
That's the biggest advice you can tell is speak to somebody, because once you speak to somebody, I truly believe that any suicidal thoughts or anything like that will not come, because you will have that support.
Yes.
And know that that you've got that love.
Yeah.
That I think only comes when you suffer in silence, and that's why we don't want you to suffer in silence. Speak to somebody. Yeah, as Michelle said, Sands is there. Yeah. If you know somebody personally who's gone through it, speak to them.
And I'm in loads of groups on Facebook, absolutely loads. So message me. There's again, like Glenn said, there's not a lot for the fathers, but I'm actually in a lot of groups, because when things like this happen, unfortunately, as I said, you automatically get put into this membership of the bereaved parents. It's not a membership that we want, but that's just what happens. But from that, we do support each other. And that's why I created my own. So if you feel like you can speak to me now, if you feel like you trust me because you've seen me do these lives and you want to join my support group, you're more than welcome to. And it's called Forget Me Not Babies. And just because of that, we're never going to forget them. And it's also named after Destiny's resting place because she's at the Forget-Me-Not Gardens in Bushbury.
Yeah. So I hope you guys, have taken some positivity.
Yes.
Out of this. Because as we said, for every negative thing that happens, you can put a positive spin on it.
Of course you can.
And this is what we're here to do with this. It is such a difficult thing to deal with. And when you go through, you think, well, how can anything good come through this?
Right. Yeah.
But just look where we are now.
Exactly. Yeah.
And what you've got to realise is, as you said, everything happens for a reason. Just because you've gone through that heartache. Because at the time, we were absolutely adamant we weren't going to have any more kids. We were going to try. We were going to, that was it. We were done. And now look at us.
Yeah.
Because we had, because sometimes you have to trust that it's God's will. God's will, God turned around and basically said to us, it's not happening, I'm going to bless you.
Oh, yeah, definitely blessed.
So now we're in a situation, and this is something, that we, if we were going to be truly honest with ourselves, didn't ever envisage it was going to happen because we weren't looking for it to happen, to be truthfully honest. We weren't looking to have any more kids. And when praise came around, we definitely weren't looking to have any more kids. And now Shiloh's come. And now we know that...
my womb's gone.
Yeah. That's a different story.
So there'll be no more kids. But that's another story.
But that's another story. But that's obviously that is on Michelle's blog, so you know that.
It's all on my blog.
Yeah,
it's on WordPress.
Yeah.
I've got 2 blogs. I've got one to help parents that are going through exactly the same thing. So if you go to always Pastor always, if you go to WordPress, I am michelleclark.wordpress.com. That's my personal blog. And if you go to forgetmenotbabies.wordpress.com, that's the whole, trust me, there's some things in that blog about what happened in the actual room where I gave birth, everything. So you can, what I'll do, I'll post them at the end of this because my battery's about to die.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for joining us. Thank you. We have a few days left of Baby Loss Awareness Week. And one day this week I'll speak about my rainbow. A rainbow is a baby that comes straight after, well, not straight after, but after loss. The next baby, that's what I mean. Yeah. So Shiloh's not a rainbow baby because he came after a living child. Yeah. But Praise is our rainbow baby because she came after Destiny. Yeah. After the storm passed, we had a rainbow. So we will speak about our rainbow baby some point this week. Yeah. But thank you.
Yes, thanks guys for, as you said, it's not easy to come out and speak about these things, but we know that it has, these things have to be done because there's lots of people going through that don't have the help. Yeah. So if this, by posting this and by being on this live, helps somebody, that gives us warmth in our hearts. So exactly. That we know that we've done the right thing. So
don't think you can't share because it's private information. It's not. It's happened to us, and we share it to help others. So you can share this. It's not a problem.
Yeah, share it wherever you need to share it. Yeah. And, just know that if you need to reach out to us, you can. As you know, we're both on Facebook. Just message us. And for the father, because I know that is mainly the mothers that, that will, speak on these things. If your partners, and this is that to mothers, haven't spoken to anybody, please get them to message me. Even if it's just to say, I've gone through it and they don't want to speak about it yet, but the connection is there. Yeah. So when they are ready to, we can deal with that. I'm not trying to be no counsellor or anything like that.
No, we're definitely not counsellors.
It's just a case of speaking to somebody that's gone through the same thing. Yeah. People can find peace with that. We found peace with that when we first spoke out about it. Yeah. And that's what we want to do by doing this.
And we're just talking about our own experience. So that's the disclaimer. We're not counsellors. We're not GPs. We would still advise you to go and seek medical advice. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Oh, thank you so much, Pastor. Thank you, Annie. Thank you, all of you that came on, jumped on, watched what we had to, say. Thank you. If you're watching on the replay, don't forget to hashtag replay. Once this is over and I've charged my phone, I'll go through every single comment. I'll comment back. Thank you so much, and we'll see you tomorrow for day 4 of Baby Loss Awareness Week. And I think I might talk about how it affects the siblings, because Malika's dying to come on, and she did it last year as well. So take care, speak to you soon. Bye.
Bye.
And well done, hubby, for sharing.
That's right.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Good night. God bless.
Bye.